Welcome into South Philly Sauce, an Audacy original, brought to you by 94 WIP and Jack Daniels. Ashlyn Al back here in studio, in person, and a lot to talk about. A lot of good things happening with this Flyers team right now. We talked to you guys last week before the Penguins game started, and we hyped them up, basically saying this was a huge matchup for the Flyers. Got to turn my phone off when you record podcasts. And they swept them, home and home, swept the Penguins. I said it. I was getting made fun of by my coworkers for saying this, but I think it's true that it was the biggest win of the Flyers season so far.
Well, certainly, because when you count them together, to have wins like that, it's tremendous, and it's the Penguins, and that's why people go to the games in Philly, to beat teams like that, to have upset wins against rivals. That's, you used to say in football, you can lose every game, just don't lose to the Cowboys. And that's really not true, especially with a team as good as the Eagles. But there are certain teams that you get more points for, not in the standings, but in the player and the fans' minds, and I think in your locker room. And Pittsburgh's certainly one of them. Yeah,
you could tell they were hyped up especially after the home game, winning the second game against the Penguins. And I guess I was a little surprised at the sloppiness of the Penguins, because I knew they were kind of right in the middle of their season, or they were right in the middle of the standings. And I thought, not that they didn't play the Flyers hard, but they made some mistakes that I wasn't expecting them to make.
It might have been the worst 3-on-3 performance by a team I've seen in a long time.
Made the Flyers look great.
Yeah, because the Penguins were all over the place. And it's hard to make arguments that you have too much talent, but man, they've got Hall of Famers everywhere.
That's why it doesn't make sense to me.
And their power play is a mess, and it just goes to show you, when you play in a structured system, what you can do. However, it also goes to show you that they're never out of it. Even if they were a mess 58 minutes, you're always like their power play is awful, right? I mean, it's god awful. It's like one of the worst in the league right now with all that talent. But when you watch it, every time the puck goes on the stick of somebody, your heart's in your throat. Like, oh my God, it's Crosby. No, it's on Carlson. No, it's on Letang. No, it went on and on. They've got one after another, and it doesn't work. But you're still terrified of it. And I guess it just goes to, okay, play a system, play it well, play defense. You can coach defense. And I don't know what I would do if I'm Sullivan, I'm coaching that team. I don't know how you deal with that, with Hall of Famers that can't get the job done. Yeah. But take advantage. If you're the Flyers, you take advantage of it.
Yeah, and the Flyers did a lot of things right as well. It wasn't because the Penguins lost it. The Flyers beat them for reasons, and one of the biggest reasons is Tyson Foerster, and goaltending, of course. There's multiple reasons, but Tyson Foerster is just on a goal-winning streak right now, and he's become a sniper. We knew he had this wrist shot. We hadn't seen it for a really long time. We got glimpses of it last season. He found it.
Yeah, he's a really interesting study in what you want from a player. I liked him last year with the shot, and then this year he's a coach's dream because he's in the right place all the time. However, the problem with the Flyers through the past generation has been they haven't had snipers. And it's nice, it's really great that this guy's got everything buttoned down in other areas of the game. But they've got guys that you can coach like that. What made him different, I thought, was like, man, what a shot. I just want to see him get that shot. So it's unbelievable that he has all the other skills that go on, the things that are really hard to coach with young kids, especially kids usually that are good shooters. They leave other parts of their game kind of vacant.
Because they only want to score goals, right?
But it was so nice to see. You couldn't take him out of the lineup because he was so good. But I didn't think they really needed another player that was doing all the things right but not finishing.
Right.
What made it exciting about him was, well, here's a guy that is going to do most things right, and he can finish.
Yeah.
And we hadn't seen it, and now we've seen it. It's like, thank you. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, and we knew it was coming. I mean, we all knew because we had saw glimpses of it last year. We knew it was kind of like a mental blockade, and Torts was talking about it post-game, how he would see him when he missed a shot, he'd look up to the sky or he'd slam his stick, and they were very careful of not allowing him to get too frustrated because they knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And it's to the point now that Foerster is playing so well so far this year that John Tortorella was asked about him becoming an elite two-way player. And you can tell that Torts thinks he can be because he said, I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah.
He knows he can be. He can get to that point.
Yeah, he's at a place in his career now very early.
So early.
You don't want to... He doesn't seem like the type that'll get a big head about it.
Well, you don't want to put that pressure and label on him so early in his career.
You don't. Yeah. And you don't want him cheating on things anymore. You don't want any of that. And Torts is pretty good about trying to keep expectations level on what he can and can't do. But I think he can be an elite player. I think he can be an elite two-way player, which I didn't consider. I just considered the goals,
right. Which is good enough because that's what the Flyers need.
Just one of the goals.
Yeah.
So I mean, if he's an elite two-way player or a more than dependable two-way player, well, now you have a goal scorer that can be on the ice at any time, and that's a big difference.
Yeah, it's the difference in forcing them into overtime. Or now you see the Flyers now with 2 comeback wins this season. You can get them back into a game because of this. I thought it was cool. I thought the second win against the Penguins was the perfect example of where the Flyers are right now, because you have the excitement of the young Tyson Foerster. You have no more questions about your goaltending. Carter Hart played excellent. You feel so good about him. And now Ersson. And then you have Coots scoring the overtime winner.
Yeah, Coots.
The young and the old. Perfect.
That was a big game for Couturier. Frankly, his game has been so up and down, coming back, missing a year or whatever. It's so long since he plays, and playing against the Penguins. Now, it seems like an obscure type of statistics that he hadn't played with the Penguins without Giroux as a teammate until the last 2 games.
Yeah.
But when you have Giroux, somebody's taking Crosby and somebody's taking Malkin. Well, now Couturier is going to take a lot of those draws. And sure enough, I was asking about it before the first game. It's like, Crosby's so good in that face-off circle. And sure enough, it's the second game where Couturier, on the first goal, he drives the net, so he doesn't get any really setup on it, but he was very instrumental in the goal. And then in the game winner, he wins that face-off. He wins the draw. A huge win in that zone to set it up. So it's nice to see him getting more consistency in his game. He's never been really a quick player, fast player, quick thinker, but not the fastest player. So winning faceoffs, driving to the net, stuff like that is what you wanted from him.
And just a heads-up player.
Yeah.
I mean, the one goal, I can't remember who it was now, but we were talking about it in a post-game live where he drove 2 defenders.
That's the first goal, right?
Yeah.
It was it was the first goal.
And that doesn't happen. That goal doesn't happen without him.
It doesn't happen, even though you don't get an assistant, even though you're not what we call a screen, but you're moving through. So you're moving, and the goaltender has to keep an eye on what's going on there. And your player that's shooting sees what's going on, takes the shot.
Yeah. And I think the one thing you can knock on the Penguins' performance is some sloppy passes, some defensive. They're having trouble getting back in the zone. That's been kind of the case the past couple of weeks, that it seems to be a problem. But Travis Sanheim, the amount of ice time he is getting is wow, so much. And so cool. They were saying that in post-game locker room, they were saying that Sanheim was the one who drew up that overtime game winner because he knew Konechny was going to beat his guy in order to make it happen.
Well, the two Travises, the Travi, whatever they are, they think alike. It's like a Vulcan.
They know each other so well, and he knew Konechny was going to beat his guy.
Key is but point one is win the draw. We got to win the draw, and then if we can do it and we can beat them on a wraparound pass like that. So you get it, and Konechny gets on his horse and just takes off. But the Penguins were structurally awful, and especially the 3-on-3 on what's going on. But you have to notice it and be able to take advantage of it.
Right.
So you have a team that's not intimidated by the names on the back of the jersey.
Yeah, and that's a lot to be said. And Sanheim's playing really well, getting a ton of ice time.
We have to cut down on that ice time.
Yeah.
It's
going to get too much.
His plus minus was dipping. I don't think necessarily because I thought he played strong anyway, but so much ice time, it's still early in the season. I think they want to temper it just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and that they needed him at some point, but now you have Mark Stahl back. Now you have Rasmus Ristolainen back. You have Cam York playing better, where I don't think there's as much pressure on him as maybe 3 weeks ago. Yeah. Kind of was the only option at some point.
Well, depending on, York's there, but Risto coming back is, that's a plus, a veteran player like that. And it seems like he's taken the adventurous things out of his game, where he'd just leave and go try to make a hit and leave space. So it looks like that's been almost entirely removed from his game, at least what we saw late last year and a few games this year.
Mm-hmm. And now we look forward to this week. And right now the Flyers are in 3rd place in the Metropolitan Division. And we're going to talk about this on our pregame show, because I was just talking to our producer, Joe, for the show. And we're basically questioning, okay, well, how can they stay here? Because right now the Metro's so bottled up. And it's a lot of this. It's a lot of kind of roller coaster. Teams taking 3rd place, going back down to 5th, a lot of moving around. The question was, okay, well, how can you stay in 3rd place? And I said, in my opinion, it's goaltending. It's the way the Flyers have been playing goaltending. can you keep this up? Can you keep winning these close games, these hard-fought games? I think yes, if you have Ersson and Hart playing the way they do. And with Ersson being able to now take the load off,
right,
that's huge for Hart.
Yeah. It's the question is whether you just pencil in the goaltending that's what you're going to have. The Flyers' problem in staying there might not even be the Flyers. It might be the Devils. Yeah. It might be teams that have underperformed,
that are going to come back.
That are going to come back if you're looking at the conference, and that are going to come back and get spots. That's what worries me, that there are teams that have underperformed, especially in New Jersey, that have underperformed. And are they going to like raise their game? And then it's going to make it all that you want is you want to be in that fight at the end in March. Mm-hmm. The dream, I know that some people think that, okay, let's they're already talking trade deadline. Let's get there and then move people out. But I think what I think that you should be looking at is it going to be, make it a tough decision on which way you're going to go. Make that you don't want to do anything because you can make the playoffs.
Right.
So I think you can do it with the goaltending that they have. You obviously, if Foerster continues to score goals, and if the power play would just improve some, they're managed to get through because their penalty kill is just elite right now. Really, one of the best penalty kills in the league, if not the best. But their power play still doesn't provide them the margin for error on games where you don't drag in your A game. It's a quarter of a season basically played. It's a lot to ask to keep hitting on all cylinders through the next 55, 60 games.
Yeah, when your power play isn't clicking.
Yeah.
But, I mean, a plus is, we joked about it on postgame, overtime last year.
Oh.
You used to say those words and you might as well just not watch. It's like, all right, like, get ready.
It's over.
Notes.
Yeah, it's over.
Loss. No. Now, like, overtime is so much fun to watch.
Overtime and shootout. I mean, it was doom. It was done.
Yeah.
Once they
don't even bother watching.
Get the one, just leave with the one and be happy.
Yeah.
But no, now you've got some confidence in it. You've got some skill in it, and the goaltending is remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
That's what gets you. Look, if you just look at all the games they lost, the point they lost, and take 50% of them. Boy, they may not make the playoffs, but they're going to be fighting to make the playoffs for the last week, and that's been terrible years that they've had.
Yeah, well, that's all you could ask for, I think, realistically. When we talked about it this year, we always just said, be in the conversation, because last year you weren't. Even if you're just looking in March, if we're on this podcast and we're doing some math, and we're like, right, if they lose these 3 games and they win these 2, what happens?
Yeah,
that's all you can ask for at this point of the year.
Well, what they've become, Ashlyn, is a very admired team for their record. For doing things the right way, it's also, if you're the opposing coach, your message to your team is you better be ready.
Yeah,
you had better be ready because I guarantee you, if it's like 9 out of 10 nights, they're coming at you with everything, and that is really respected through the league.
Yeah, they've always been aggressive, but I think the addition of someone like a Garnet Hathaway is making them even more so. And we all know about Hathaway's big hit against the Rangers and all the hoopla with that. And I did a story on Hathaway, and I don't know why, but I always put myself in the family shoes when you look at a player like Hathaway. He's got a wife and kids. And I think as a female, when I see like Hathaway fighting every single night, I'm thinking like, what is his wife doing? Like, is she sitting at home like, not again? Or like, does she even care at this point? And she was saying that she doesn't care, but that hit against the Rangers came up at the Thanksgiving table with his in-laws because it was such a talked about hit, and it sparked John Tortorella, which he got some heat for, saying that hit became the reason why he believes the NHL is now the no-hit league because of everything that came from that backlash. Yeah,
that was the Rangers hit because Trouba is such a tough player. Then the hit with the Devils where they, another hit. So there's been a couple that have gone on. And Hathaway, look, if you want to be a professional, there's a reason why you're in the league, right? I mean, let's face it. He's not a goal scorer. No. He's got some, but he's going to be there because he's going to stand up for teammates and he's going to try to be an energy player. So that's what keeps you in the league. So if it was it would be like my wife saying, well, I don't like the hours that you work. Well, do you want dinner?
This is the way it is. Yeah.
This is the way it is. Yeah. This is how I make my living. This is what's going to happen. And I think, as long as you don't put yourself in a dumb position where you're just absolutely going to get demolished. And I can see way later in a career, it's like, but we can't have this anymore. But I mean, he seems like one of those guys. It's like trying to beat up a football. It seems like to me like he's just fine. And there are certain guys. I remember I've covered enough of these guys. He reminds me of Berube, who just didn't mind it at all. Just go, okay, I'm going to go in and that's my job. I'm going to do it, and that's that. It's as simple as that.
He knows his role.
Yeah, and then I'm sure, if you're around the Thanksgiving table, you're just happy that he, can still eat. His jaw's not wired.
Yeah,
so as long as,
it's fine. No big deal.
Don't put yourself in a bad position. And as long as you love what you do, guys get in trouble when they don't like it anymore. They don't like what they get terrified of. He's not near that point anymore. And I think he wants to be a part of that team, to be a part of the win. So if it doesn't show up as a goal and assist or whatever, it shows up elsewhere, especially in a locker room.
Yeah, you can tell it's clicking here for Hathaway. He's been a couple of stops. He just got here over the summer. And he was talking about getting his kids in school and Jersey and adjusting. But you can tell he really likes it here. And he just fits this play style. And he's a dream for Tortorella. I mean, Tortorella, that's exactly the player he wants. And I don't blame Torts for saying what he said because it was such a blatant miscall. And Torts, I mean, that's the hitting, the violence of the game is what Torts coaches.
Yeah, he doesn't want, we all want the speed in the game still. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants the skill level's unbelievable.
That's what makes hockey.
It's unbelievable. The skill level's so good compared to back 10, 15 years even. But the game is still the most interesting. And I think the message he's trying to get across is it's still the most interesting, just on the edge of mayhem, but doesn't get to mayhem. Just, you want the people in the stands to say to themselves, you couldn't pay me enough to go do that.
Yeah,
and that's what you have. But Torts' message was kind of like, know how to take a hit too. Like, it's come to the point, because when the kid's coming up now, and I've coached enough with kids, you don't hit for a very long time now. So you have to learn how to take a hit. And I think Torts is worried that a lot of guys just assume, okay, I'm not going to get hit. Or if there's a hit, somebody's going to get in a fight because of a hit. I think they need some real honest physicality in the game. Mm-hmm. So no matter how much skill there is, there's always, in my mind, to get people to watch, there's always going to be physicality in the game.
You need to.
It's the difference in the sport. And I understand people that hadn't played it or hadn't watched this. Like, how can they have fights? Like in the NFL, you get one fight and it's like the end of the world. Like, throw them out. But that's just part of the game. It's part of the game forever. It's been part of it. Much less than it used to be. Way less than it used to be. But you basically got guys running around at a high rate of speed with knives on their feet and sticks in their hands. Stuff's going to happen. Yeah. So it's just going to happen. And this is what he's trying to get an attention, not to just hit, but learn how to take a hit, and that's just part of it. Just because you hit somebody hard doesn't mean there has to be a fight afterwards. You hit somebody hard. It's as simple as that. And as ironically, Konechny, after he says this, puts his head down going over a blue line, and Erik Karlsson could have absolutely blown him up, but didn't. And I'm still kind of torn on that. If I'm a Penguin fan, I'm thinking, I think you should have lit him up. Yeah, there.
That's his fault.
But I'm like, on the other hand, I don't want a concussion or anything like that. But it was really a let up.
And it would have been clean. I mean, it
would have been clean. And the question is, it was different than hunting. It's very difficult. Like, I would legislate against what I would call hunting. But if somebody's just coming, he didn't go out of your way to hunt him down and do it. No, that's just a bang bang play.
He was in the way.
Would have been right there. Yeah. So, man, Konechny got away. Boy, did he get away with one then.
Yeah, it would have been a scary hit if it was one. And then Torts he's just full of headlines lately. Yeah. He always is. And I would love for people to see in our post-game shows what our producer Joe goes through, because we at this point can't even take Torts live because he curses so much. We can't put curses on the air. So we're quickly trying to turn it around. And Torts the other day started his press conference and doubled down on it, said it twice. We've got balls. Twice. Yeah. Said it.
And that's
Joe, our producer, was like, do we run it? I mean, it's not a curse word.
No.
So yeah.
No, we ran it. And it's true. I mean, that's the kind of team he wants. But I think that this group of players should realize, much as he can drive you nuts and he can be demanding.
He can.
This is probably the last group that's going to be able to wear a T-shirt that says, I was coached by Torts. Mm. because he's coached so many players and there's so many stories. And I think this is his last go-round. So I think that they should appreciate even a guy like Fairby who's benched. If I had a T-shirt where I was benched by Torts, I could sell out, right? So, but I think that they should appreciate that this is a coach that's not going to be coaching much longer after this, I don't think. And they should appreciate that they're going to be part of a history of a coach that's going to be legendary in the NHL for a lot of things.
Oh yeah,
being going emotionally, winning though, and putting it and being just a part of the fabric of the game. One of those guys that there's stories about all the time. There's always stories. Like when you go to a golf tournament and you're playing for a Tortorella team, what do you do? How do you react? Well, what is training camp like? It's amazing. So I really do think that this group should, I don't want to say relish because he can drive you nuts, but should at least appreciate, and the fans, that you might have been the last part of this era of this coach. You got it at least you were part of it. And they'll be talking about this guy you'll be talking about it in 20 years.
Yeah. No,
That's what's going to happen. Yeah.
I know it. And it's funny you say you'll talk about it in 20 years. I connected with Erin Andrews over the weekend, and she started her career with John Tortorella. She was the Lightning reporter when she started her career, 24 years old. Now Erin is, I believe, in her 50s and obviously on NFL Sundays. And she was like, what's he like?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on with Torts? Like, she's talking about it 25 years later.
That's what I mean. It's like, I think there has to be an appreciation level of that right now, even though he might, God knows what will happen here next year or so, but to be a part of it in Philadelphia, to be a part of what's going on, to cover, if not in play, like you mentioned, Erin Andrews, all the writers I know that you covered Torts. Mm-hmm. It's amazing the stories that go on. So you've got a little chunk of NHL history that you become a part of just because John Tortorella's here.
Yeah, it's so true. He brings eyes and he has his sayings, and I love that the Flyers made T-shirts with that saying, because why not capitalize financially on things like this? Yeah. They're not dumb.
No.
And from what I understand, they're selling it. It was like had 300 retweets on the post. So yeah, they're selling. And now Flyers, they have a big one coming up. Arizona Coyotes, and I don't know if you would have said this was a big one when you looked at the schedule at the start of the year, but their 5-game winning streak beat the Capitals 6-0. And Al, you were telling me their 5-game winning streak is so impressive when you look at
all against those teams that have won the last 5 cups. I mean, it's just really good teams that they've beaten. And I guess when you have a little arena like what they've got here, if you can turn that into your advantage, I think maybe that will help them out. It's surprising to me that they played this well, but at least they'll have the Flyers. If they thought they could go in there and just take it a little easy, that record should kind of set that aside. I still worry about it, though, after those wins against Pittsburgh.
For sure. And they're kind of neck and neck right now when you look at their records, both with, I believe, 11 wins, but Arizona on a hot streak right now. And you can say the Flyers are on a hot streak, but this is an impressive hot streak with Arizona when you're looking at it right now.
Yeah, because nobody expected anything.
No.
Nothing.
But you could say that with the Flyers as well.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was talking to the Penguins reporter, and she's like, wow, like the Flyers, like they're having a great year. Like to people around the league with where the Flyers are right now,
right.
They're like, wow, look at this team.
Here they are, and in Arizona, the same thing. So just manage to maintain, I guess, get the goaltending to be the same. And it's for an Eastern team going out west. I mean, they went out, took a day off, went out, so that shouldn't be a factor. But sometimes it is. You go in and it's just he's going to have to keep. This is a team that cannot hit on 80%. It's even against Arizona. They're gonna, because they've got some skilled players. Obviously, they're gonna have to pretend you're playing the Penguins. Yeah,
you really are. And then we saw the last time they went out west, that very first game against San Jose. Disaster. And then they got their footing, and you had to wonder, was it because it was the first game out west that they looked like they were asleep the first period?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't want to, and after this, I mean, you've got a monster coming up in the next game. So I'd try to take advantage of this one.
Yeah. We'll see if the Flyers can get that done. That game is on Thursday. So we'll be back later on this week to recap all the things going on with the Flyers. Thank you for tuning in to South Philly Sauce, an Audacy original, brought to you by 94 WIP and Jack Daniels. We will see you later this week.